welcome back. I'm joined with Blair Mantin, and Blair's one of the largest, Blair's one of the partners of one of the largest trustees in bankruptcy, Sands and Associates. Welcome, Blair, and thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Mark. My pleasure.
Blair, let's face it, the word bankruptcy strikes fear into the hearts and minds of many people. In fact, many people may be surprised to know that, Walt Disney, Mark Twain, they both declared bankruptcy. Actually, the Donalds even been through it several times. My point is, it's definitely not a sign of poor character, and contrary to popular belief, there is life after bankruptcy. You don't lose everything. And I know one of the misconceptions, Blair, is, you lose your house. So, let's talk a little bit about, how you handle it and what's involved.
Sure, Mark. Thanks. It's my pleasure. Anytime I can get a chance to talk about some of the misconceptions about bankruptcy and potentially correct some of what people think they might know about it. It's a good day for me because generally people hesitate in coming to see a trustee in bankruptcy for exactly the reasons you said. They're scared that they're going to lose everything. It's going to be a very unpleasant process. At the highest level, almost everybody I see who goes through bankruptcy keeps virtually all of their assets. So though when you go into bankruptcy, theoretically you surrender your assets to the benefit of your creditors, there's a number of provincial exemptions. Everything in your house typically is going to be exempt. It's exempt up to a value of $4,000, and that's at garage sale price or Craigslist price, not what it cost you to replace it. You keep your tools of the trade, you keep your clothing, your medical aids, you keep a vehicle if it's worth less than $5,000. But I know the subject for today is your house. And, in general, people are able to keep their house. So the equity exemption within BC, within the greater Victoria or greater Vancouver area, is $12,000. Right. So what we need to do when we sit down with somebody is work out, well, how much equity do they have in their house? And provided after all the calculations, it's less than $12,000. It's very easy. That's an exempt amount. If it's more than $12,000, well, then we work with them to see what the options are. And in general, if it's something reasonable, we can work it out so that they retain their house after bankruptcy as well.
Blair, one of the things I really like about your firm and what you guys do, and I kind of associate a little bit with what I do, is I always like to have the feeling that when people come into my office, they always leave in a better place than where they were. And I sure see from your guys' perspective that that's the case. And I know, I've had many clients that have declared bankruptcy, and I know their initial thought process was, it's pretty scary. If I do it, it's kind of like the end of the world. Everyone's going to know about it. And, I'm sure you do it every day. It's not the case. I mean, this is pretty easy to do. It happens to a lot of people. There's a lot of reasons it happens, whether it's a divorce, loss of job, medical reasons. The key point, I think what you're trying to say is that, give us a call. We can help you.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it, Mark. So people spend a lot of time, really treading water or just making minimum payments and not getting ahead because they have a lot of fear or they've heard certain things. Whether it's well-meaning friends or family, there's just a ton of misconceptions out there. And I mentioned to you one of the things I love about my job is that day to day I consistently get to give people good news. Right. So they come in thinking it's going to be an intrusive and unpleasant process. And with my firm, our whole raison d'etre is we treat everybody with respect, with empathy. Our general philosophy is that, some good people sometimes have bad things happen to them. They're honest, but they're unfortunate, whether it's job loss, it's medical issues, it's relationship breakdown. Sometimes it's just mismanagement, living beyond your means. The whole bankruptcy legislation is geared towards giving you that fresh start. Right. In the last year, there was more than 100,000 bankruptcies in Canada. So it's more prevalent than and, people are scared that everyone's going to know about it. It's a very, very small percentage of cases. Do I have to put a notice in the newspaper? I do one every few months. Most of the files that I see, I'm aware of it. The debtor's aware of it, and the people they owe money to are aware of it. But that's largely where it stops.
So when should someone be calling you? Like, typically, what's your advice?
I would think when you start to get to the point where you can't see a light at the end of the tunnel, if you've got, a couple months where you've missed payments, but you can see that you're going to be able to catch up on those payments, then you've got a bit of a plan. I think it's where you start to think that, there's no reasonable prospect that I'm going to be able to get out of debt in any short amount of time. If you're getting those credit card statements and they're saying it's going to take you 97 or 99 years to pay off your balance if you make only the minimum payments, which I see on a day-to-day basis, right. That's probably the time to give us a call. The thing to keep in mind is it's free to meet with a trustee in bankruptcy. By law, I'm not allowed to charge a fee for anything until you choose to, either do a consumer proposal or to work with me. And I'd say, probably maybe even the majority of folks that I see, I'm able to refer them elsewhere. So whether it's to a mortgage broker like yourself, because they've got some equity in their house and they just need a way of tapping that equity,
right.
Whether it's to a nonprofit credit counselor because they just need some really in-depth budget counseling, maybe that's the help that they need. Maybe it's to do a consumer proposal, which I think we might do another segment on eventually, but that's a great alternative to bankruptcy. Bankruptcy is the last resort. And for some people, it's just the right choice. They need to sort out their problems so they can get back to zero and then start to move forward.
And Blair, is it hard to do, or is it a quick process? Is it and before you get onto that, the other thing too is it stops the creditors from calling, which I think is a key thing.
That's the number one thing. And, debt stress is real stress. I see people who, before they started working with me, they look a certain way because they're getting bombarded with calls, right, with mail. They don't know what to do. Once they go into bankruptcy, it's immediate, the stay of proceedings. So, I send things out the same day to the creditors. As soon as they receive their notices, they're not allowed to phone you, to call you, to take you to court, to send you mail, anything like that to try to collect on their debts. So it's the person's decision to sign into bankruptcy. And no one can get rejected from bankruptcy. You just have to owe $1,000. You have to not be able to pay your debts.
Right.
So it's your decision when you go into it. And then, from that point forward, you've got a bit more control because all you have to do is deal fairly with the trustee. So think of me like a referee. So I sit in the middle between, you and your creditors. I make sure they follow the rules, which means, not contacting you essentially. And I make sure you follow the rules. And there's some duties that you have to do in bankruptcy. And I can run through those as well.
Right. Well, you know what? We're coming up to the end of the year. Christmas is coming. I know typically January is a big time. You get all those credit bills and all stuff like that. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you, and how should they go about contacting you?
Probably two ways, depending on whether you like the phone or you like the internet. So we've got a great website. It's sands-trustee.com. And on there, you can request a free consultation at any of our 9 offices. We're growing to 10 very soon. So we've got the best office network in the Lower Mainland, which we're very proud of. What we also have is some great information online. So we've been a bit of a pioneer in terms of our YouTube videos. So we've got 2 animated short films.
I saw that, yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, they're a minute to a minute and a half each. And they really attack, some of the misconceptions, give some information on the process, and they try to do it in a humorous way. So I encourage you to watch those. We have a 310 number, so it's 310-0911. And if you phone that number, that'll connect you to the closest SANS office to yourself. Yep. Generally, I can get somebody in within a day or two for a free consultation. It's half an hour to an hour. It's with somebody that I guarantee won't judge you. It's going to ask you some questions. And, essentially, it's just going to tell you what your legal options are. So our job is to inform you of your options, and what you choose to do is totally up to you.
I think that's key, Blair, what you just said, someone who doesn't judge you. And I think that's a real important fact. And that's what I liked when I met with you guys, that, I really got that impression that it's not like the old school thought, bankruptcy, we talked about, you're going to sit there in front of an old 70-year-old guy who's going to judge you. It's not like that. It can be a pretty pleasant, process. So what I'll do, Blair, is I'll put a link to your website, telephone numbers, and I encourage people to give you a call and get the consultation, because you know what, it's free and it's going to put people in a better position than where they are.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Yeah. So thanks for joining me, Blair. We'll pick it up again with another topic. I know there's many here, and you got tons of information. But in the meantime, I'll like I say, I'll put the link for the phone number and the website, and people can contact you pretty easily.
Great. Thanks very much, Mark.
Excellent. Thanks, Blair.